Hi, Mary.
Hi, Leni. How are you?
I am wonderful. How has your week been?
It's been an interesting week. I did something to my hip, so it makes me feel older, and I just don't like when when I'm in pain, and then you just feel grumpy and older. But I know that's going to pass, and it's all going to be okay. What about your week?
Well, my week has been quite hectic, but I think I mentioned earlier I got a new project. I saw a very mangy and very skinny puppy at Splash, and so when we're finished here, I'm gonna go and get some medication and see what we can do. It's so sad looking, the tail not wagging, nothing, just very, very sad, and that kind of tore at my heart. So I have a new project.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Anyway.
That puppy is going to be very lucky to have you in his life.
Can't wait to see him play and run and wag his tail, and then we need somebody to adopt him. Maybe a horse once.
And so we want to introduce Erin Dunigan is here with us today. We're so excited you're here. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
You are so welcome.
Yeah. And we already have 9 dogs, so.
10 is such a
well, then what's one more, Erin?
Yeah. That's how you wind up with 9.
Is 10 not a spiritual number?
Did I mention 35 horses?
35?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Where is your property? I mean, where
We're in La Misión. Yeah.
You are?
La Misión, yeah.
Are you close to Santa Anita?
Yes.
Rents?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't
no more
realize
animals.
Yeah. Okay.
Good job saving the puppy, but
Yeah, well, okay, we'll pull back on that.
the food bill is a little.
Now, when I first met you, I don't think you had.
No.
You had a dog.
I had a dog, but that's where
One
it all
dog.
starts. It's a slippery slope.
But no horses.
Right. I had one dog, and then that led to cats. But actually, the dog directly led to the horses. So Tigger, who I rescued, I put that in quotes because she kind of rescued me.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
Much as I rescued her. But she and I were walking in the estuary on the trails, and I saw a horse that looked very sad and thin and tied up where there was nothing to eat. And I actually knew the horse because the horse had been a friend's, and she had sold the horse to a kid. And so I knew the horse, and I saw her, and her name was Luna. And so I said, "Hi, Luna," and she just looked really sad. But what could I do? She's not my horse. I had never been a horse person. I had those horse figurines growing up, which I really liked. But
Did you?
I did. I loved those. But my only experience with horses, real horses, was at like a 10 or 11-year-old birthday party where it was a trail riding birthday party. And we all gathered, and they put us on our horses, and I got on my horse, and what I now know is the horse just reached down to graze a little bit while we were standing there, and I was convinced that it wanted to buck me off, and I started crying and got down and sat on the picnic table while everyone else went on the trail ride. Oh. So that was my only experience with horses until moving here. So anyway, Tigger and I were walking, we saw Luna. What can I do? There's really nothing I can do. And went home, and then the next day, walking again, and saw her again. And that day, I felt like she looked at me and sort of pleaded with me with her eyes. And so I went over to where there was a little bit of grass and picked some and handed it to her, and she ate it. And now I'm here.
37 horses.
So did you adopt Luna then?
So I ended up taking her in and having her fed and water. We weren't even sure she was going to make it. She was pretty rough by that point. But she did. She lived. And she now is in a parcela below my house with her 4th offspring. His name is Deseo. And he's, tomorrow he'll be 6 months old.
Oh.
And Deseo means desire. but the reason I gave him that name is the root is for desire is supposedly from the stars, from the heavenly beings, and so his mom is Luna, but it also has a relationship of like from the kingdom, from the heavens. And so I decided to give him, it's a little unusual to name a horse Deseo. The Mexicans are like, what? Desire? Why do you call your horse Desire? But he's very sweet. He's got a lot of personality. And his mom, Luna, actually just had her first grandbaby. Her firstborn, India, just had a baby called Cajeta. So a lot more animals on the planet from that one walking of my dog.
Wow.
And as it happened, the day that I encountered Luna with Tigger was October the 24th. And that had been the day that Tigger had come into my life. 5 years before, I think. So on the same day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Tigger the dog was actually part of the catalyst of me actually living in La Mission full time. At the time, I was trying to live part in the States and part down here and kind of have this split life, and having the dog sort of catapulted me into a different life, which having the horse has done the same.
So how did you end up getting Luna? Did you go to the owner?
Yeah, that was a long process. I ended up taking her in. The owner was a kid who I don't think he meant to abandon her. He had to leave for work and put somebody in charge, and I don't think there was a lot of money or resources in the mix. But I ended up paying the family for her.
Good.
But how wonderful that you came upon her, and then here you have all these other horses as a result of her. But also, how did that impact your life? I mean, having horses suddenly would be a huge impact.
Well, at the beginning, it didn't really. Like I said, I was never a horse person. I never really thought I would have a horse or wanted to have a horse. I was, at the time, barely even kind of starting to ride horses because I had this fear for no particular reason. Other than my stories, my mom had an experience riding horses on the beach where she couldn't reach the stirrups and the horse galloped and she couldn't stop it. But she didn't even fall off, nothing happened, but there was this story. And then a neighbor down here had a situation where a horse kicked, and I remember being a kid and there was a lot of drama around something that happened to the person's leg. And so I just had fear, general fear.
Well, they're big animals.
Yeah.
They're big.
And I didn't know much. But like we were saying, I think before we started recording, sometimes life, you might plan a certain thing, but what unfolds is a completely different thing. So
but there are no coincidences.
Exactly. So the happening to walk my dog in the estuary that day instead of at the beach,
and she was.
happening to find her, happening to know the horse, so to rescue a horse but know the name and the birthday and all the lineage.
So I am curious, once you got her and you started feeding her and getting her well, how did she react to you?
Well, thank you for bringing me back to, I didn't really necessarily even spend a lot of time with her during that early time. I didn't really know what to do with a horse. So in the beginning, she wasn't rideable at all. She was very ill. But there were a couple times where I'd take her out for a walk, leading her. And, I was a runner, so I thought, oh, we'll run. And she started running, and I thought, well, you're bigger than a dog. Maybe shouldn't do that. I mean, there were many ways that you would never, it's not textbook at all. When she became rideable, like I said, I was very afraid, and I didn't really know what I was doing at all. And she was a little bit spooky. She was also afraid, and she had this trauma in her life. She had been ridden before she had been abandoned, but she was a very green horse, and I was a very green rider. And you would never put that combination together if you could plan it. But I didn't plan it. So there was a lot of learning to overcome in the beginning for me, and I think for her, There was a lot of just overcoming the fear. And then I've had her now 10 years.
Really?
We're coming up on 11 years this fall. For the first years, it was just trying to overcome and gain some confidence and I didn't ride that often, but when I did, I knew I wanted to figure out more. And so that then led me to a journey of studying and learning. But the first 5-6 years were all just learning by getting on and figuring out what was working and what wasn't working and falling off.
Whoa, I think that's amazing you even did that.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, it's kind of ironic because my whole life I've learned everything by reading. I'm a student. I love to read. I love to learn. I've got a master's. It took me a while to realize, I bet you I could read things about horses and horseback riding to learn some more information. It just never kind of occurred to me because I learned sort of cowboy style. You get on and you go and you figure it out along the way.
I love this quote, if I may share it. Some people learn by reading, others learn by observing others, and the rest of us have to pee on the electrical fence 3 times before we get the lessons.
That was a little bit like my
falling off the horse.
Yeah.
But the reason, I'm sorry, Mary.
No, go on.
The reason that I asked about that is I just, it's actually 5 years ago, I can't even remember, it's already that long. I adopted or rescued a dog. And I remember the first time I had to keep him in my car before I could get permission to keep him from my landlord. And so I kept him in the car. And I remember I heard this thump, thump, thump. And when I realized that he was wagging his tail, the first time I got really, really excited. It was very satisfying. And so that's why I was wondering, were there any visual signs in her appreciation of you having rescued her?
Well, so I think those came later, not because she didn't have them, but because I didn't know how to see them or understand them. Mm-hmm. Now, when she sees me, she'll often call to me. And
what do you mean by that?
Like a whinny.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I know so little about horses, and I have to admit, I'm a bit intimidated and frightened by them because they are so big.
Yeah.
And because I don't know them.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's where I was. I don't know how they communicate. I don't know how to know if they're happy or sad or mad or I don't know any of those things. And for someone who likes knowing everything and likes controlling everything, that was really kind of unsettling.
Now, did you learn some of that through books or just by really being with the horse?
It was kind of both. At the beginning, it was just riding, but there was so much that I couldn't see, and I think some of that is just time in the saddle as well. Not only time in the saddle riding, but just time unfolding and realizing. People would make comments like, "Oh, her ears look happy," and I was like, "What are you talking about? What do you mean her ears look happy?" And then learning, you can actually look at a horse's ears and see where they're paying attention and where they're listening and if they're happy and if they're not happy. And then once it's really been a peeling away of my own either misunderstandings or not understanding and realizing, there's so much communication. It's like tuning into a radio frequency that unless you tune in, you don't hear that music. Yeah, that's and right. You go along blindly.
So how does the ears have to appear in order for you to know that she's happy?
So typically, if they are like little satellites, like moving around, the horse is kind of reading the environment. What's around, if they turn back towards you, if you're riding, they turn back towards you, they're paying attention to you. If they're like straight up but forward, maybe there's something out in front that they're seeing or they're realizing, they're noticing. If they're pinned back on their head, then they're mad. Something around is not making them happy. Maybe usually maybe another horse is in their space. Something about it they're not pleased with. So just simple things that can give you more confidence if you're not used to being around horses. Oh, well, I know I can look there and I can get kind of a read on what's going on. You might not understand it all, but it gives you a little bit, doing something new is very humbling. And especially when you're doing something new where you're putting yourself in the hands of a being that's not you. So again, especially if you want to control or predict or know, all of a sudden, oh, I'm not in control and I don't know how to read the being that is, that can be really scary, I think. So I see a lot with, so now I help take people riding. And so I've gotten to experience a lot of different situations. People who are afraid, people who are not afraid but maybe should be. And a lot of what I see tends to happen with women, that we don't want to be... So here's how it'll look, right? So you'll be riding the horse, and the horse will be just kind of going wherever it wants. And this happens with men too, but it almost always happens with women. And I'll say, hey, Mary... take your reins a little bit more, be a little bit more directive about where you're going. Your horse is sort of going wherever they want. And then Mary will say, oh, but I don't want to be mean.
Oh my God, that is something I would say.
I don't want to be mean. I don't want to tell the horse what to do, or I don't know what I'm doing. How should I? How dare I tell the horse what to do?
Yes.
And so, but the thing is that you're not doing any favors by not being directive. And so what is uncovered, you said, there's a lot to learn. One of the things that it's uncovered for me is finding a place inside where you are gentle, but you are also strong. And so being directive or being assertive is not the same as being aggressive or being a jerk. And it almost always happens with women. If you're open to this kind of cracking open in you find like, oh wow, like it's about horses, but it's about so much more than horses.
And that's what I have loved about your Facebook posts that I've read. And I haven't seen all of them, but the ones that I've read, it's about the journey on the horse, but it's more also about your own personal journey and your heart and mind opening to what the horse is helping to lead you to, I guess, is the way I would put it. And I just find that so inspiring and also phenomenal that through this other being, they're helping you.
Yes. Yeah, the horse is really the teacher if you're open to learning.
So when you learned to read the language of the horse, have you been able to take that knowledge and, for example, apply it to human beings? I know that we react and do different, but have it sharpened your ability to interpret body language?
So this is a little bit of a crazy story.
Oh, please do.
But a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago, I had a really good family friend. She was like a mom to me. She was one of my mom's best friends, and she was in the hospital dying, basically. She had been declining, but then there was an event that happened, and so she was in the hospital, and she was intubated. And her family called me, and I went up probably to, we didn't know what was happening. And it happened that on this particular day, the day I went up, no one else could be there. And I said, that's okay, I'll just go and I'll be in the hospital with her. And so I just sat there with her. She was not conscious. And I was just sitting. I wasn't really doing anything. I wasn't on my phone. I wasn't reading. I wasn't watching. I was just sitting with her. And all of a sudden she woke up, which was huge. And she woke up and she opened her eyes, but she was intubated, so she couldn't really speak, and she had mitts on her hands so that she wouldn't pull out tubes or anything. And so we made eye contact, and I called the nurse, and they ended up taking her off the oxygen, but she still couldn't speak, but she could mouth words, but no sound came out. And we were communicating. And then someone else came in the room and she was communicating with them, and I acted as a translator. Oh, she's saying this and what. I wasn't even thinking, because I'm so used to translating English and Spanish. And I was translating, and we were communicating, and then more of her family came in, and I mean, it was amazing and beautiful. And finally, Martha, who was her name, Martha looked to me because there was someone that wasn't understanding her, and she said, "Why can you understand me and they can't?" And I said, "It's because of the time with the animals. It's my time with horses." And after I said it, I thought, oh, does that sound offensive? Like, am I saying you're like an animal? But it really, there was some sort of magic presence that I was able to have with her, and I directly attribute it to spending time with the horses. And then I left. I came back down here. A couple days later, her condition declined. I went back up there, and it wasn't, I couldn't translate anymore. I couldn't communicate. And she was looking at me like, you know, what happened? And I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know where it went. I don't know where it came from." But it was something about the time spent with the horses, and it's like you're tuning into another frequency.
Wow.
That's
That
wonderful.
is incredible.
Yeah. So do you think you can communicate with animals? Primarily horses?
Not in the way of like, I know people that are animal communicators, and not at all on their that level. But I do often, so Luna was my first horse, and now Luna's on maternity leave. So I usually end up riding Alegria, who is also one of my horses. And there will be times where I will just know that Alegria wants to drink water. Like, oh, she wants to go drink water, and I'll take her and she'll drink water. I don't know how I know that. Maybe I'm just reading her signals, or I figure maybe she would. But there have been... Do you want another crazy story?
Yes, please. They're not crazy.
At the risk of
They're beautiful.
Yeah. So I organized a woman who is an animal communicator and a horse person to come down and offer a clinic down here. It was back in February. Her name is Carrie Lake. She's amazing with horses and animals. And so she had been leading us, and it's not just about horses. It's about transformation. She helps connect people to themselves beyond themselves. So as part of this, a few of us were on horses in an arena, and she was doing different things. It's not about how to ride. It's more about this connection and tuning in. And she was working with someone else, and I was on Alegria, and all of a sudden I had this really overwhelming sense of like wanting to lay down and take a nap. And I didn't really know, is this me? Like, do I want to lay down and take a nap, or is it Alegria? And there's been times where I've had a sense of, oh, I really want to eat green grass. And I know that's not me, because I don't eat green grass. So I assume, oh, that must be you. That's not me. But it's just a sense that comes over me. Mm-hmm. Well, this day, riding her, just standing there in the arena, I had this overwhelming, I really want to take a nap. And the sand, it would be so nice to just lay down and take a nap. And before I knew it, we were both laying down in the arena in the sand, which startled everyone else, because, you know, when your horse lays down, you're in the saddle, you've got to get out, you don't want to get stuck under there. But I wasn't startled at all, and I wasn't worried. I was just like, oh, right, now we're laying down because we really want to lay down and take a nap. And so I got myself out of the saddle, and I stood up next to her, and she stood up. Now, if I was taking people riding, I would never let that happen. Like, you're always like, oh no, you know, there's signs that you can tell when a horse might want to roll or something. But this was different. This was just an overwhelming feeling of, I would really love to lay down right now. And I didn't fight it. I welcomed it. I said, oh, that's that feeling. Let's have more, until we were lying down in the sand. I don't recommend that.
No, I think I would freak out personally, but
well, and I would never let it happen to you because I'd be watching your horse, and if your horse did look like they wanted to lie down, I'd say, "Hey, Mary, grab the reins, get moving." But I sort of let us do it because I was just sort of exploring: is this me? Is this you? Is this us?
That's wonderful.
So I don't have any explanation for that, and it doesn't happen all the time. I can't, on demand.
It's not something constant.
Yeah.
When is the book coming out?
Yeah, really, you should think about writing, because even I want to go back to what you said about a woman on a horse and the horse, sort of wandering, and we can take the reins and help with that, right? And that inner knowledge, how much you've been learning about yourself and on this planet and your journey through the horses, because of the horses.
Yeah. No,
I find that amazing.
It's almost, the actual riding is part, but that's like the tip of the iceberg. The inner knowledge and the epiphanies. Another, just maybe a silly example, is if a plastic bag blows by, that can startle the horse. So in the beginning, like I said, with Luna, I had all that fear. I was basically trying to rid the world of plastic bags. And then at some point I realized, oh wait, you can never rid the world of plastic bags. So you have to find a way to instill in yourself and in the horse of being okay even amongst the plastic bags.
Because the horse picks up your energy.
Yeah.
But in regards to the book, I'm sure you're going to write, you could do it with a spiritual twist, like lessons that the horse had perhaps taught you.
Yeah.
I think it would be fabulous. I'll buy the first one.
Perfect. All right, I'll sign you up.
Thank you. Wow. So how has it transported you, your relationship with all these? How has it changed you? Because I'm sure it has.
It's changed everything. It something that I thought was just I happened to rescue a horse has actually invited me into a world far bigger, deeper, more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. There's in the Chronicles of Narnia series, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the final book, I can't remember the name of it, but it talks about that the children get invited into this world where Aslan the lion is, and they keep going in, and it gets deeper and richer and deeper and richer and more beautiful. That's what it feels like with the horses. I thought I was maybe learning how to ride a horse or going to become a cowgirl, but the more I learn, the more opens up, and it's an invitation. So it's an invitation and a hunger and a delight. It's part of why I named my latest horse Deseo, Desire. It's an invitation into more of that. One other thing, I've gone to different clinics to try to learn about horses. And I have a guy, I call him the Colorado Cowboy. His name is Mark Rashid, but he embodies this sense of being gentle but strong. And so I've gone to some of his clinics because I want to see more of that. And one thing that he says is that people often say they want to connect with their horse. It's pretty typical that women in midlife and beyond find this connection with horses.
Sort of like this statement, frustrated cat ladies.
Exactly. Don't get me started there.
Yeah. That's a whole other podcast.
I have cats too, yeah. But it's often women who want to connect with their horse. And they'll say that, I want to connect with my horse. But what he says is that, so when we try to connect with our horse, Imagine you're sitting on a horse, and there's a tube that goes from your heart down to the horse's heart, pretty much direct. And so you're saying, I want to connect. And so you're like shoving stuff down the tube. I want to connect. I want to connect. I want to connect. The thing is, what he says is that we as humans, we're not always great at connecting. we've lost that along the way. But horses are actually really phenomenal at connecting. And so instead of saying, I want to connect, what we do is we open ourselves to the connection and allow the horse to communicate up the tube from their heart to ours. And so we receive the connection, and then, we can direct it. And I think with that, how often do people want to connect with the divine or want to connect with their deeper self when maybe what we need to do is open to that connection and allow it.
And receive it.
Wow.
And allow it, yes. Wow.
So, just to sort of
Oh my gosh.
finish up, do you have any regret, any advice that you would like to impart that you have learned from your horse family?
I think one thing I wish that I had sort of been able to start knowing all this sooner. It took me a while before I got to this part of my horse journey, but maybe that's the way it needed to be. But if from the moment I saw Luna in the estuary, I had been able to find some of these learnings, I feel like if I were able to talk to me 10 years ago, I would love to give her a whole lot of jump starts that I kind of meandered for a while to get to. So
I don't know. I think that's all so beautiful, though.
Yeah.
And that sometimes we will even, I think, referring back to what you just said a few moments ago, we force things.
Yes.
Rather than just allowing.
Yeah.
And opening our heart. And also, like, being so wanting to be in control and knowing what's going to happen next. When maybe the real journey, at least in your telling, really it's bringing tears to my eyes, the idea of just letting it all be and welcoming that. You could have walked by Luna.
Yep.
You could have.
Yep.
And I think there's many people who would have, right? And how often so many of us lose the opportunity of just stopping for a moment and listening.
And that the horses, they move at a much, not slower pace, because they can obviously run faster than us, but their beings invite us into a paying attention that's much slower. If we're always busy and got to do the next thing, then we miss all of what's happening underneath.
Oh
Wow, how interesting. You had an experience with your horses. I had an experience like that with a little mouse. And of course, everybody thinks that I sort of stepped out of my own head there for a while. But what I learned from that little being was, it doesn't matter what you love as long as you do. And I thought, what a great lesson to a little being that we spend millions of dollars every year on trying to exterminate. And he was the most beautiful little creature I have had the pleasure of sharing my life with for a little while.
The lessons we can learn from animals.
Yeah, if we're just open, like you said, and what a good reminder to be receptive and not trying to force things, which I think we all have a tendency, or at least I have a tendency to do, but just let it flow.
Or to be so busy that we can't hear anything, really, within ourselves, even, right?
Yeah.
Our own voice, our own.
Chatter. Yeah.
Thank you, Erin. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. That was lovely.
Really.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Wow.